The Square Ball Podcast.
What about LUTV then? Tell us about being back in the commentary game and what you've witnessed at Leeds over the last few years. And where do we sit right now, do you think? Are we sitting on the edge of a good opportunity now? It feels like that to me. It feels like they just need to step forward and take the chance that's in front of them now, I suppose.
Yeah, but it's a difficult, anybody who gets involved in owning a football club will quickly tell you it's a really difficult job. And it's whether it's a 1 week into the experience or whether it's 1 year into the experience, they always arrive at the same place. It's really difficult. And the sense that I've got around what's happening at Leeds United is that word that I used earlier on of stability. I have the sense that there is stability. And stability, from my experience of being around lots of football clubs, is that stability is absolutely crucial to the success and well-being of the football club. A degree of stability, which Leeds have lacked, for a long, long time. There's been 15 plus years in the middle of, from Leslie Silver onwards, when there's been anything but stability behind the scenes. I think that's in place now, but then stuff doesn't happen overnight. And you've got all the complication. You've seen it in the last week and a bit, where you have a star player who, well, Jorginho's, his journey with Leeds has been an interesting one. He arrives for a big fee, and then people look at him and go, I mean, Sam Allardyce didn't even mention the fact he was on the bench as a potential striker replacement after Leeds had lost at West Ham in that game towards the end of that relegation season. When he was asked why he didn't bring on another striker, he didn't even mention Jorginho Ruter. So he was completely out the frame at that point. Then Championship, he looked a really exciting player. So that changed perception, and then he leaves, because that's what happens. And that's the bit that you, as an owner, you must look on at that bit and go, this is a crazy business, this, because where's the planning? Where's the long-term? Where's the ability to long-term plan here? And it doesn't really exist, does it?
I was going to say, can you even long-term plan when players are on 4 and 5 year contracts? There's a real challenge there, I suppose, isn't there?
It doesn't really mean anything, does it? A 4 or 5 year contract, with the managers as well,
yeah,
which could be 6 weeks, as it turns out.
But we know that if any player gets down to 2 years, then they either need to re-sign or get sold at some point.
Yeah, so there are certain, that's okay, because that's relatively predictable. And if there are things like get-out clauses in contracts, you'd also predict, well, that's probably going to happen. The alternative to that is this guy is not doing what we want him to do, and it doesn't happen, and then you've got the guy anyway. So that you're in a position whereby success cost you his cost you, but also failure cost you as well. So it's a bit of it. Listen, it's crazy, isn't it? The game we've already discussed it. Transfer deadline days and all the rest of it. This time of year really heightens the kind of sense that the game is in a bit of a crazy place, and applying logical thinking and long-term logical thinking to this thing is really difficult. But actually, I think that's what you've got to try and do. You've got to have a plan and say that we're heading in this particular direction. So having spent a little bit of time over in San Francisco in the summer, and had a little bit of a link up with the 49ers people, and had a tour of the stadium, the Levi Stadium in Santa Clara, which is unbelievable. You do get a sense of an organisation. There are 250 odd office staff, backroom office staff at the stadium, Levi Stadium. So this is they're a big organisation. Leeds are a kind of an adjunct part of that, I guess because it comes through the Enterprises Group, but it's connected, and that I'm pretty sure will come to fruition at some stage. In the midst of the madness, I think Leeds will work through to somewhere where the thing looks... Leeds have fallen so far behind. People's moaning about the fact that Jorginho's gone to Brighton, but Brighton have been in there at that top level for a long time now, with this solid investment model, it would appear, behind them, and long-term planning and stability and all these things.
And a brand new stadium.
And a brand new stadium that creates its own revenue streams, that the Ellen Road, God love Ellen Road, fantastic venue, but it doesn't offer the opportunity to do the stuff that other clubs are doing. And again, if you look at Levi Stadium and see what they can do on the kind of the corporate side of it, it is wow. It's, another planet. So that's there for a reason, because that helps you, because that's investment potential through people spending more money. So there's a bit of a journey that Leeds need to go on to get to that position where you would say that, well, we don't lose a player to Brighton anymore. Leeds aren't there. Leeds are not even in the same division as at the moment. But I think my sense is things like, if you ask about LUTV, I think LUTV's output has come on fantastically. And that's because there is a willingness there to make it look better. And little things, I see it. I only see it. I'm in there one day a week. I go and do a commentary and then I go home again. And that's my sort of weekly involvement. But when I go in and there's new kitting and there's a new camera, or we can now talk from the tunnel to the people in the studio. When I see things like that, that gives me in my little part of the organisation a sense that that progress is being made.
Yeah, because
that makes what we're doing potentially, as long as we hit the mark, that makes what we're doing better as well. So there can be little things, studio lights appear that weren't there previously, little things like that actually have a big resonance, because if you're doing that in every position, if you're doing that in every area of the club, then in time, a lot of it may be unseen, but in time, things will get better because they're the things that kind of you should be doing.
Yeah. Incremental gains. It's like anything, isn't it?
And they can be really little things, but it gives everybody a sense that we're pushing forward here.
How have you found it with Daniel Farke? He seems very willing to come and talk to you after a game, and goes back to what we were saying before, actually, about Leeds being an emotional club. It's something he identified, I think, when he's been speaking to you in passing in the last few weeks. I really enjoy
it. I mean, he comes out. He appears at the end of the game, because we only interview him at the end of the match. He appears at the end of the game, and he always appears, by the way, at the end of the game. So that's a win, lose or draw. It's been mainly wins, in fairness, but he always appears. So he always comes out and does his bit, which is a good starting point. But we always have there's a big sort of high-fivey thing, no matter what has happened in the game at the start of it all. And I enjoy doing interviews with him, which is not something that I would say about everybody in the past. Howard Wilkinson was a fantastic manager for Leeds United, but I would never sit down and say to you, I enjoy doing interviews with Howard. It was hard.
I think you might have mentioned this before, actually. Yeah.
A real challenge. So Daniel is, different end of the spectrum. With Marcelo, I never interviewed him ever. So there was a gap there of 3-4 years in the LUTV experience, which involved never speaking to the manager. And then we've had all sorts of different personalities in the time since. But Daniel is, I like interviewing Daniel, and what I think he does well is, so Tony will say stuff in commentary that he's spotted, that he's seen, that needs improving, that's been good, or whatever it might be. And invariably, Daniel will make the same points in his post-match. So there's no collusion there. They're football people who've spotted football things, and I think that's good. After Middlesbrough, Daniel decided he was going to take the stick for that one, and that's it's not a new ploy, that one, but that's him. He was taking it on his shoulders. My mistake, my fault. I got it wrong, or I made too many changes, or whatever. But he does recognise it when he says, go out for a beer tonight, guys. Those things, I think, it's messaging. I do a lot of media training with football coaches, and we talk about messaging. And so you go out at the end of the game with a clear message in your mind that this is the message that I want to deliver. I need to deliver. Who am I talking to? All those kinds of things. Who's my audience for this? And he's good at that. He comes out with ideas of things that he wants to say at the end of the game. And then there's an engagement with the fan base. If you say, go and have a few beers tonight, it's a simple phrase, but it shows that you understand what the impact of Leeds winning is. Yeah. People feel happier.
Yeah, it's a form of emotional intelligence, I suppose.
Yeah. So it is emotional, but it's simple, quite simple on that emotional basis.
Yeah.
Leeds win, I'm happy. Leeds lose, I'm sad. Leeds draw, I'll get back to you.
Wait, I was going to say, it goes back to what we were saying before, actually, about Leeds being an emotional club. It is an emotional club, but actually, at its root, we're all quite simple creatures, aren't we? Like, if you want to please the Leeds fan base, sign some players and win a game. and look at what's happened over the last week.
Well,
as you were saying before.
There is a simplicity, but there's also complexity. So for the first 3 weekends of this football season, I've been doubling up. I've been doing Leeds United matches and Wrexham games because I've been able to do both. Wrexham being the team that I've supported since I was 8 or 9 years old or whatever it was. So I've been going to see both over the 3 weekends so far. So on the Saturday, I did West Brom 0-0. Bit of disgruntlement at full time there. Players went over, did their thing, clapped, so did the manager, but not entirely positive reaction. Quite a few empty seats, so a lot had already scooted. The following day, I went to watch Wrexham play away at Bolton Wanderers. Wrexham took nearly 4,000 fans to that. So actually, Wrexham had more at Bolton than Leeds had at West Brom, for whatever allocation reasons that might have been. So really big away spot. 26,000 at Bolton as well on the Sunday, and Wrexham created very few chances in the course of the game, probably 2 shots on target, and got a 0-0 draw against Bolton, who were fancied to do well in the division, good side at home. At full time, full-on celebrations. Everybody stays in the away end. Players come over, chanting to the rafters. 2 0-0 draws in the space of 24 hours. Situation very, very similar. Leeds had drawn their first game. Wrexham had just narrowly won their first game. But completely different kind of sense around what happened at the full-time whistle in the 2 games. And that's maybe where the complexity lies as well, because you've got to factor in all the other stuff at Leeds. At Wrexham, it is simple at Wrexham. Most of us are loving what's happening at Wrexham because it's
riding the crest of a wave.
Riding the crest of a wave. So that's when it's pretty simple, because this is great, isn't it? Fantastic. Look how many fans we've got. Look how many we've won again, or we've not lost again, whatever. Whereas the Leeds thing is a bit more nuanced than all of that, because Premier League and then down again, and those things have added to it. Ownership issues from the past. I think it's very simple on one hand and also very complex on the other hand, which must be quite confusing for people in charge.
Yeah.
I'm guessing you've never had to commentate on a Leeds Wrexham game, have you?
It's never happened.
It's a possibility.
It's never happened.
Next season.
I'm not going down that route. I am not going down that route. I'll say that I think Wrexham will do okay in League One, but I sincerely hope it doesn't happen next season.
Would you not like to do that? Would it not be kind of a dream?
I think on one hand it would be a dream, and on the other hand it would quite clearly be a nightmare. I think it would be win-win, but also lose-lose,
right? If
that makes any sense.
And everybody picking apart your every word.
Well, yeah, of course, yeah.
You're biased, Law.
Yeah, exactly. And you shouldn't be doing this game. We all know what you are, because it's all bets are off. It's okay when Leeds and Wrexham have never, ever played each other in a competitive game, which is the case.
Is that true? That's
true, yeah. They've never, ever played each other. They've met twice in friendlies. The new book that's out, Andrew Dalton's book about the friendlies and all the rest of it, the non-competitive games, the bit I went straight to was the 2 games when Wrexham played Leeds. And I think it was in 1960-something. It was mid-60s. It was a good Leeds United side. And Eddie Gray made his debut in one of the 2 games. So they played each other. That's it. Those were the only ever 2 meetings. So everybody's quite sort of, yeah, it's great, Wrexham and all that, and I'm glad you're doing well and stuff. But I tell you what, it would all change in a heartbeat if it was, Leeds United v Wrexham at Ellen Road, FA Cup, 3rd or 4th round.
Yeah,
and not the 4th round, Bryn. Come on, don't be such a dreamer.
Cup, 3rd round, and I don't know, Paul Mullin happened to touch in an 89th minute winner or whatever. Even as I think about it now, I'm beginning to feel a little bit uncomfortable.
I was going to say, I can see there's a perspiration there forming on your brow.
What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? And then,
do you think you slip into professional mode though?
I've commentated on games against Wrexham, as it were, before. So when I was at BBC Radio Leeds, the very first commentary I ever did for BBC Radio Leeds was a Friday night game at Halifax, which I was going to go to with my mate Stu, who's from the same village as me, just outside of Wrexham, who's lived in Leeds longer than I have. We were going to go to the game together, a few beers, watch the match. Wrexham were on a promotion push at the time, and then a day before, I think Radio Leeds said, "Oh, do you want to commentate on it?" So it was my first chance to do it. So I said yes. So the night out went for a Burton, but I went and commentated on the game, and Wrexham won 1-0. Second half goal, which I was commentating on, but I had to be it was the year Halifax was struggling against relegation for the first time, and I had to be really sad that they'd lost the game, and then going into manager Mick Rathbone after the game and all, and be downcast and all the rest of it. So I've done it. That's only the first time I've done it on more occasions. I did Bradford Wrexham at the racecourse once, and Wrexham won 6-1. And I was commentating. Chris Kamara was my co-commentator. It was one of, if it wasn't his first co-commentary, it was very, very early on in his broadcast career. And he was not playing because he was injured. And they were 4-0 down at half-time, Bradford. Oof. And they'd been abject. And he was seething. And it came through in his commentary. And it was
meanwhile,
really critical. And I was trying to seethe away with him, but it was a lot more difficult for me.
It's a shame, isn't it, Chris?
Yes, shocking. Mind you, this lot are not bad, are they?
Should we talk about Wrexham?
This Wrexham lot. So I actually got a letter after that from somebody who said they were a Bradford fan and they appreciated how sad I sounded. But then you got to think, well, I did part of my degree course was I did English, but I also did drama. So I did 3 years at Central School of Speech and Drama. So it's, you just put yourself in the role, man.
Yeah. Yeah. But at work. Yeah.
It's work. Yeah. Work. Leeds Wrexham would be another level of trying to beat, Wrexham Bradford, Wrexham Huddersfield I've done, Wrexham Halifax I've done. But Leeds Wrexham would be tricky. Challenging.
Well, your next challenge is going to be the Hull game at home at the weekend. And what's your framing around that one then? Where are you sat on this one? Are you going to wait to see what's kind of happens in the transfer window before now and then? Or?
No, I don't think so. I mean, Leeds at home against Hull, Leeds should win the game. Whether they will win the game is a different matter. But, I'd say that ahead of most games, frankly, because as I think we saw last Friday, we all needed reminding of it. There's still some good players in that Leeds team. They didn't amass that number of points last year by a fluke. And I know you've lost a lot of the goal scoring plus assist making element in terms of the departures, but there's still some good players in the team. And in championship circles, we were talking about this, Tony and I, after the match. You often say, well, they weren't very good, were they, after Leeds have played a team? And then you realise, actually, it's probably not that. They're championship standard, but Leeds are actually higher than championship standard. We saw that numerous occasions last season. I think back to games away at Swansea and Cardiff and places like that, where actually Leeds, they won really easily against teams who you would have thought might be quite difficult. But because they just had more better players, quite simple. So if Leeds have kept still a core group who are pretty good, and then they're adding to that core group, you ought to get a similar outcome for this.
Which I suppose that's what the Sheffield Wednesday game did. I suppose to an extent reminded everybody that the core group that's there is actually quite good for.
Yes, there are some players in that group you need in the Championship. A group who are good, and then you need 2 or 3 who are really good, and that should be enough to carry you beyond most of the teams in most other games. It happened last year, so if you needed a goal, Somerville might pop up with one, or you've lost that element from the side, but there's still people who can do that, who can step up and do something a bit different. And then if you add a few more to it again, then you shouldn't be dissimilar as an outcome. But
it's never say never, is it?
Well, I'm big on the old karma thing and all the rest of it, and I don't like being wildly optimistic about stuff. But I can actually look at this one probably a little more clear-headed and be a bit more clear-headed about it, and think that a good group of players should have a half-decent season again.
Yeah.
So Hull at home, you just put that one down as it's got to go down as a home win.
Yeah, they were good last year, were Hull, and it seemed a strange move for them getting rid of Rossini. And I was looking at their results so far this season. They've drawn at home to Bristol City. They lost in the Carabao first round at home to Sheffield Wednesday. Drew away to Plymouth. And then
Rooney's Plymouth, no less.
Yeah, but then drew.
Is he there now?
For now, and then drew at home to Millwall. So they are drawing.
Yeah, and they've invested quite heavily in the squad. They've got an ambitious owner. They've got all those things that often go into the mix in terms of people in the Championship who are trying to get their clubs out of the Championship. But the bottom line is Leeds should still win the game. So they'll maybe come. I say probably, I don't know, but they'll maybe come new manager, new mindset. They'll maybe come and do what lots of others did last season, which was come to Leeds to not lose, occasionally successfully. But if Leeds, You think back to that 20 minutes against Portsmouth at the beginning, and as Daniel Farke said after the match, probably the best that Leeds have played in the time he's been at the club, and they absolutely tore them to bits. And you think, I was genuinely thinking this could be 5 or 6-0 here, because Leeds are so much better than this lot. And then the chances get missed, and you only stick away a penalty. Then you gift a goal, and then the whole thing kind of just a little bit of air goes out of it. So if they can avoid that, then so defence, I think the key to all of this, and it was last season as well, is actually the key isn't the attacking bit. I think the key is the defensive bit.
Yeah.
So if they are strong at the back, they should win most games.
It's that thing of getting through teams, as you say, teams who sit deep and look for draws at Ellen Road, or just against Leeds in general, is solving that problem. And I mean, do you get a sense from, well, through your own eyes and through commentating, but also speaking to Daniel Farke and maybe even Tony as well, that they've realised that that's a thing they need to deal with? And do you see a different approach to it? Are they trying to, I don't know, transition the ball forward quicker, for example, like we saw at Sheffield Wednesday, the goal that Dan James scored, pick it up, send it through from deep, off you go?
Yes, yes to that question. Also, I think the other bit that it's noticeable that they clearly have been addressing is the set piece element to this one, because when you do have teams who come and sit deep at Ellen Road, one of the additional ways to break them down, if it's not working, if wing play isn't working or whatever, and they've put 8 men in the penalty area, is from a set piece. When you can have a raft of corner kicks and probably free kicks, is to make sure that the ratio of those that end up as goals, that was a big element missing last season. That in tight games last year, I think it was most noticeable. You know, that corner kick into the penalty area where a central defender or somebody, David Weatherall like, Gary Speed like, ask your granddad, arrives to meet that, you know, and takes command and heads it into the back of the net.
Pascal Strauch.
Pascal Strauch, yeah. So Strauch's goal scoring record wasn't bad, was it, before he got injured last season? But if you can add that little bit to it, so in the tighter matches, the set pieces are also productive for you. You're not completely reliant on the moments of magic. And we saw 2 great goals scored at Sheffield Wednesday, 2 of those lovely kind of counter-attacking goals that we enjoyed so many of, Bielsa time and all the rest of it. So that's one way of doing it, but you need to find a few other ways of doing it as well, I think. And so you can see quite clearly that has been an element of what's happened over the summer, because the set-piece delivery's been better. They've looked more likely to do stuff off it. So, you know, if there's somebody who can step up and bend in a free kick over a wall from 25 yards as well, then that would also be useful, because all those things add up come the end of the season.
Why does Joe Rodon seem so unlikely to ever score? Because he's amazing in the air defensively. Somehow with the ball in the other box, he never seems anywhere near it. I can't quite grasp how he isn't good in the air at the other end.
I'm going to hesitate to make this comparison, but I'm going to do it anyway. I've played a lot as a defender. Yes, that's me. And still am playing as a defender. And I often go up for corners. I'm not massively tall, but I'm often taller than some of the people I'm playing against. So I'll get sent up for a corner, playing the centre half or right back. I'll get sent up for a corner. And in my entire playing career, and I'm 55 now, and I started playing at the age of 8, I've scored 1 headed goal from a corner. It was actually recorded on camera. It was in a charity match last summer. But that is the only time. In fact, not only have I only scored 1 header from a corner, I think I've only ever probably met 3 crosses in that entire time, corner kicks. So what I'm trying to get at here is I'm not very good at doing that thing. But my mindset isn't that I'm going to get in there, I'm going to power in there, I'm going to time this run perfectly, and I'm going to score a goal with a header here. And I've seen players who can do that. I mentioned a couple of them already, Gary Speed and David Weatherall, who you thought, absolute focus on, I can do this. So maybe Joe's got to get to that place where he's telling himself, I go in there, timing, run, and I will win it, and I will head the ball in the back of the net.
But don't ask you for advice.
Absolutely. Well, that's the best advice I can give, is don't ask me for advice.
But now you've said that, actually, and I think about it, it is a different skill set running back towards your own goal, heading one back that way, than running that way and heading it in.
And I can do that other bit if we're going to go back to my rubbish career. I can do that bit. Ball coming at me, I can head it away. That's and I can attack a ball coming in at me. It's balls coming across that I have the problem with.
You need to be coaching, Bryn. Never mind doing the
I need to be
commentary.
coached. I don't know about coaching.
Well, so you've heard it here first then. So it's a definite home win and a definite goal from a set piece this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. Joe Rodon.
Yeah, Bryn Law has called it now. Bryn, thanks for coming down. We'll do it again soon.
You're very welcome.
See you soon.
The Square Ball Podcast.